Hey people, I thought I'd come on and explain something to you Republicans with your trickle down theory. Your trickle down theory is fine and dandy if the rich ability was like this boat. If as the rich made money, once that money got to the brim, there was a limit to how much money they could make, and that money got to the brim, then yes, that money would trickle down. But when that money gets to the brim like this, what's happening is the rich just make themselves a bigger bowl. And so it stays in their bowl and nothing trickles down because there's no cap on how much money they can make. They can make an unlimited amount of money to no end. So every time that money gets close to that brim, they just make a bigger bowl. So no money goes trickling down. And nobody below them gets any money. And the next time they just make it a bigger bowl. And in the end, what you end up with is the rich keeping on making a bigger bowl until they get a big bowl this size, and that bowl never fills. Okay? So it never trickles down. And then you got your little people down here who are getting nothing. But then you got these people right down here. Now with these people down here, their bowl fills up, but it only fills and stays to the rim. And that's it. That's all the more their bowl is ever going to get full, is that full. Because as much as they're putting in, they're also taking out for their living costs. So then their money don't trickle down. So then you've got these people down here who aren't getting any money, and their money's down this far. As much money as they're getting in, they're paying out more. They're just trying to stay afloat. So nothing gets trickled down. So then you have these people here. That should have been this one. Nothing gets trickled down from these. So then you have these people here. Their bowl is empty. Nobody trickled down anything to them. They're living on the street. They may have a job, but the job is doing nothing more but paying for the food they eat and their children's food and the gas in their car to be able to get to work, to be able to make more money, to be able to pay for some food that day, to be able to pay for some gas to get to work, and they never have enough money for rent. So your trickle down theory is all great and dandy. But only if you keep that rim at a set level. Because the rich will never trickle it down. Never. And their bowl will never be full. They will stretch the line of where their bowl will be full at. They just about get it full right here. They just about got it full and it's going to go over. Then no, they don't. They got that bowl and it's almost about ready to go over. And oops, they got a bigger bowl. They get that bowl and it's just about ready to go over. And oops, they got a bigger bowl. And they do it again, and they get that bowl, and it's about ready to go over. And whoops, they get a bigger bowl. And that's why we keep on telling you, trickle-down theory will never work. Because a rich man's pocketbook or ability to make money is not like a bowl. It doesn't have a set rim. The only way, trickle-down theory is like trying to fill the ocean to overflow the whole earth. You could never do it. You could never do it. No matter how much water you put into that ocean, you can never do it. Sure, the ocean may shift, the ocean may change, but you will never fill it enough to flood this earth to the point that not a single piece of land is left. You could never do that because there's always a higher point of land. Yeah, it covers your beaches. Oh, then it floods your prairie lands. Yup, there goes your rivers because they're full of ocean water. And then the mountain, and then the next mountain, and then the next mountain, until you get to the tallest mountain that is almost out in the stratosphere. But by then, everybody who's down here in this little bowl are dead. There's nothing trickle down. These guys might be alive. They might be spreading around the earth on a boat. They may be out in space because Earth became unlivable. Some of these guys might get there. Might get there. Most of them are going to be making makeshift boats and trying to figure out how to get food to grow on that boat. These guys here, they got hydroponics and everything else. They're doing fine. These guys here, below them, the next level down, some of them are going to get into that situation with these guys. But these guys here are now going to become these guys' servants. They're no longer going to be the privileged. They're the ones that's going to make, these guys here are the ones that's going to make that money for these guys. These guys here are going to then become these guys here. And they're going to be out there scrounging for wood to make a boat and trying to figure out how to put some land on that boat so that they can grow just a tomato tree. Just a tomato plant. And these guys are going to be gone. Because that's how trickle-down theory works. In a situation that there is no brim to the bowl of the rich who are making that money. Now, are you now going to make laws that state that a rich man can only make so much money a year so that the excess that they make can trickle down to the next bowl? And the next bowl can only make so much money a year so that their money will trickle down to the next bowl. And that bowl can only make so much money a year before it trickles down to this bowl. Because that's the only way you will make trickle-down theory work. You have to have a brim to the bowl you are filling for that bowl to overflow. And we have no brims. We have no limits or caps on how much money we can make a year. The rich aren't going to wake up someday and say, I'm rich enough, I don't need any more money, and then start letting it flow out of their bowl. They're most definitely not going to uncontrollably let it flow out of their bowl. If they trickle down anything, they're going to choose who it trickles down to by how much it benefits them, not how much it benefits the bowl below them. They can give a shit less about the bowl that below them. And you know who's in this bowl here? It's not only the people that are out on the street. It's your grandmother and your grandfather who have worked their whole life and have now retired and never made enough money to get past this bowl. So they were basically at the bottom there. Just one step up from this bowl to start. And now they've gotten old. And they can no longer work. And they can no longer take care of themselves. So they're stuck in this bowl. And they're getting some help from the government. So now they're barely in this bowl. Barely. They got 1 foot in that lower bowl. Who else is in that bowl? The disabled. Those because of medical conditions, either because they did work their butt for lives like people like me, and ended up injuring themselves at that job to the point they could no longer work, or because they were abused their whole life, people like me, they created a condition that they could not get a job, have no choice but to depend on things like Social Security for their survival or just die. We have no choice. It's not what we want. It's what happened. Yeah, you've got your druggies and your winos and whatnot else in that bottom group. But a lot of times those are the ones that stay on the street. They get no help whatsoever. The people in this bowl, they're out there working their butt off. The people who started in this bowl are working their butt off. And they've got all they can do to take care of themselves. And some of them are needing help because they've got disabled children. Children that were born with disabilities or who got in an accident are now disabled. And their only choice is to get some help or let that child die. That's their only choice. And they're sitting in this bowl waiting for these two guys to start trickling their money down. And they're not, because they have no brim to that bowl. These people here, even if they had a brim, wouldn't matter, because they're only making enough to get them right to the edge, right there. They're just to the edge. They don't even have enough to be able to take care of their grandmother and grandfather. They may have enough to take care of most of the needs of their disabled child, if not all. But they can't take care of their elderly parents. They don't have the money to do that. They're barely scraping by from check to check. So there's nothing there to trickle down. Nothing. These guys here, they're doing real good. They're taking year-long vacations on a yacht, buying $1 million yachts, and there is no brim to this bowl. This bowl never stops growing. So they never have a brim. So it never trickles down. And that, my dear Republicans, is the reason why trickle-down theory will not work. That is the reason why we need things like food stamps. That is the reason why we need things like Social Security. And it's not bad enough that we need them things. For every dollar this person here makes, and this person here makes, 30% of their income goes into the Treasury. 30 cents of that dollar goes into the Treasury. Okay? So when they come home, they're missing 30% of that check that they're counting on the government to do something good with for them. All right? 30%. That means for every dollar they make, whether they're making $5 an hour, whether they're making $10 an hour, no matter how much they make, for every dollar they make, when they come home, they are only bringing home 75 cents. Some of them are lucky enough to bring home a little bit more. To be able to bring home 80 cents. Well, actually, for every dollar they bring, they're bringing home 70 cents of that dollar. Some of them are lucky enough to bring home 75 cents on that dollar. Well, this guy here, who's making the most money with their paycheck, if they actually have to pay taxes, with every dollar they're bringing home, they're getting to bring home 85 cents of that dollar. 85 cents. When it comes to $100, they're getting to bring home $85, while they're getting to bring home $70. When it comes to $1,000, when it comes to $1 million, these guys are getting to bring home far more money. And some of these guys are many of these guys, far more money than these guys that are getting that 75 cents. More of the people here are getting to take their whole check home. Every last penny of it. Every last cent of their paycheck. they're getting to take home and go out and shop for their next yacht and decide where they're going to vacation for the next year. While this family's just struggling, going paycheck to paycheck to feed their children and take care of the children that are disabled in their family, and not having enough money to help their elderly parents. This bunch are lucky if they can take care of their disabled children, let alone themselves. And this bunch has neon to nothing. Sure, they don't pay taxes, but how do you pay taxes on nothing? And a lot of these people here are doing their part, trying to do what they can. I did my part for as long as I could, until it destroyed me. My body has nothing left to give. I started giving my part when I was 14 years old or younger. So my body gave up and had nothing left to give earlier. And I get called a bum for that. I get called a leech for that. I get told that I'm worthless for that. Many of you people didn't start going to work until you were 20 years old. I started working in the work world when I was 14. That doesn't count the slave work I did for my stepmother when I was 11. Having to do the dishes and get up and clean the house before the school bus came, so she didn't have to do it. And if I didn't do it right, I got a rice pot on top of my head. Having to lotion her feet and do her nails. And if I didn't do it right, I got a brush on top of my head. Being sexually molested by my biological father. And I had to have that house clean by the time the school bus came, or I had to walk the 2 miles to the school. Luckily, I was one of those kids in Hawaii that bus driver would stop and let ride the bus without any money. I was one of his kids. I lived in the Nanakuli, Hawaii, and I was one of his kids. And if it wasn't for him, I would have been spending my whole day walking to get to school. Maybe not my whole day, but at least up until lunch at least. But because of him, I got to school on time and was able to ride my bus home. Because of him. Just to wake up the next morning and go through the same thing all over again. So my body broke early. I didn't ask for it to. I didn't choose for it to. It just happened. It wasn't my choice. But I put in the work. Just the same as anybody else. And these elderly people out there that can't rely on their family to help them have put in the work. In fact, they're the reason why you have the laws you do today, to have the freedoms you do today. And you keep on watching this bowl get bigger and bigger for the rich. Bigger and bigger and bigger. And keep on hollering how you want trickle-down theory. You'll only get trickle-down theory to work is if you put a cap on the amount of money a rich person can make a year. That way their excess does trickle down. Until you do that, the only thing your trickle-down theory is doing is taking away from this person and this person and this person. This person might be making it all right, but they can make it so much better if these guys weren't taken away from them. Because they do. Because remember how much little these guys are giving out of their money in taxes? Well, guess what? That same dollar that is put into the treasury, this guy here is getting 58 cents of it back. And that's just in subsidies. That doesn't count tax breaks and whatnot. This guy is getting 58 cents worth of that money back. These people here really don't need hardly nothing for welfare, if anything, or food stamps, or housing assistance. They don't, or babysitting care. These guys really don't need nothing much for that. These people do. And you know what they're getting? Well, that rich man, that one rich man, was getting $58. These guys are getting 47 cents to help all of these people here. 47 cents. So that leaves a little extra for these here. Because these here ain't qualifying. So there's a little extra here to help them with their medical bills, to help them with their rent, to help them with their elderly and everything else. And these guys are already out on the street. So the little bit of amount they're getting doesn't amount to much. Because the job they've got doesn't even afford them to be able to rent a home. So they're lucky if they're able to get the same amount of money back from the treasury as what they put in. These guys here, these big guys down here, these guys here, they're raking it in. They're raking it in. They're getting that $58 a person. While everybody else down below them is sharing that 47 cents. And you're calling that fair. And you're hollering, oh, trickle down, trickle down, trickle down, trickle down, trickle down, trickle down. Trickle down will never work. Never. So think about that bowl. Think about how big your bowl is. And think about how these guys' bowls, this guy's bowl, just keeps on growing. And your politician is wanting to give them more. And take more away from you. Trickle down. let it trickle down. Ain't gonna happen.